Welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's very nice to have you here. And I wanted to speak today a little bit about our upcoming 3-week intensive and about the meaning of the statement that everything is a projection of our mind. Our intensive begins this Sunday. I'm very much looking forward to it. If you haven't registered yet, I'm encouraging you to come. And clarifying this, everything is a projection of our mind statement, is so important because I'm sure everybody here has heard this statement before. And if we are not careful, we can have all sorts of thoughts or ideas about this. Ideas that are not necessarily backed by our own direct experience of that. And so when I say everything is a projection of our mind, we have to go back a little bit and understand that the way we experience what arises is really very much influenced by us identifying ourselves as an object that arises in presence. So because we have that conscious or unconscious, subconscious, so often subconscious sense of identity, I am this body, I'm this mind, I'm this sense of I. So that affects the way we see things, we perceive things, because everything we experience is really somewhere, subconsciously skewed by that identification, right? So we don't really see things the way they are in the depth of our true nature. We see them as we experience them because we believe that we are something. We are somebody. We are this body. We are this mind. We are this sense of I. So first we want to step back out of that, right? Easier said than done, but honestly, in every moment, we can just bring our attention to the spaciousness of our true nature. There doesn't have to be this final disidentification, because in a moment by moment, we actually have a choice, so to speak, where we put our attention, right? So habitually, our attention might want to go towards I am this body, I'm this mind, I'm this sense of I. However, with awareness, we can begin to bring our attention to the spaciousness of our true nature. And so many of you, we have been sitting together for a long time, and many of you already experienced that. You know that directly. It's not just a statement, it's actually a factual experience where you know yourself as the spaciousness of our true nature. And you also know that as we rest in the spaciousness of our true nature, there are no objects here, right? Which is so interesting because it's so different than what the mind thinks, right? Through the mind and senses, they are objects, they are experiences, there's me and you, and there's everything else. But the moment we step out of that, even just for a moment, the moment we come to rest in the spaciousness of our true nature, we begin to realize there are no objects. There is no me and you and this and that. There is just the unlimited, unbound spaciousness of our true nature. So the moment the mind arises in that, and remember, mind is an object that arises in presence. Mind, body, sense of I. These are objects that arise in presence. We can either identify ourselves as that exclusively, or we can see it for what it is, which is the objects that arise in presence. So the moment the mind arises in presence, the world arises as well, right? And that means we begin to experience objects, we begin to experience distinctions, we begin to experience distance, we begin to experience, differences, right? The world, the mind arises and the world arises, right? And that experience of objects, differences, distances is so appealing. We are so used to that we believe that to be permanent and real, right? So when we are in it, we forget the reality of our true nature. We forget that little but so significant moment in which there is just the spaciousness of our true nature. And when the mind is not moving, there is no world the way we know it, right? All there is just that spaciousness of our true nature. So the moment the mind arises, it's like that analogy of a movie being projected on a screen. The moment the mind arises, and the light of our true nature shines through, it projects these images that we experience as so very real, but the reason for that is because we identify ourselves as body, mind, object, something. But the mind arises and the light of our true nature shines through and it projects these images and they look very, very real, right? Sometimes we make the mistake in the spiritual understanding that then we begin to reject that reality, but not in a way of discrimination, where we need to understand this is not permanent. Yes, it arises. Yes, it happens. Yes, it appears, but it's not permanent. But we begin to reject it in a way of denying it, right? Oh, this is not real, oh, this doesn't exist, right? And that kind of denial, sometimes it can backfire because then, we can't really be present to what is. It's not real, we can't, it shouldn't be like this. It's not real, right? So a very delicate balance there, a balance of, on the one hand, really allowing everything to be here and yet understanding the nature of it, the impermanent nature of that experience. Everything is a projection of our mind. It's not permanent. It's not real in that way of permanence, right? And every night and every morning we experience that both the little bit of death, falling asleep and just the world disappearing the way we know it, right? The mind moving from the waking state to the dream state to the deep sleep, the world disappearing the way we know it, right? And then in the morning, if you are aware of it or not, but you could bring more awareness to it. The mind arises again, and with it, the experience of the world arises as well. So I want to invite you to a deeper, more experiential exploration of that and into the, right understanding, right? Because Discrimination and judgment are not one and the same, right? We need to understand this is not permanent. And yet you want to be able to be present to it as it arises here. No need to deny or change or make anything different. So I'm very much looking forward to our time together, and I want to thank you for all your comments. You have been commenting more. I want to encourage you to comment more. It really helps us with the YouTube gods, with the YouTube algorithm, to make this more visible so that more people can enjoy this. And yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you again in our 3-week program.